everybody, Brady here from BGWX, and tonight we're going to be breaking down snow incoming Sunday night tonight into Monday morning, and then we're also going to be talking about potential storm to watch around Thursday of next week, and we're also going to be talking about just the overall pattern beyond how we're going to be getting pretty active here in this upcoming stretch of weather here. So come on in, let's break this down, take a walk with me, and appreciate all of you tuning in. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe if you are new. It's very much appreciated. So let's get going here. So first, Ryan, you can see we're showing the latest HRR update, and you're showing, as you can see here, a nice little quick burst of snow that comes in tomorrow evening across New York and Pennsylvania and northern Jersey. We'll get into this as well. New York City maybe could see some snow with this. No notable accumulation at all really with this. Really the notable any significant accumulation will be focused across northern Pennsylvania, upstate New York into Hudson Valley, Vermont, New Hampshire, just pretty much all of New England will be able to get on some accumulation. And we're going to focus, though, is here Hudson Valley into Massachusetts and southern New England here. In the time frame, again, tomorrow night as we start looking into the evening into overnight hours. And intriguing here is we take a sounding here, right? We're of the atmosphere, and this is there was no sounding here. This is close to Springfield, Massachusetts, and what we're seeing here is, remember, your dendritic gross when we look at from -20, and we look at down to about -10 now, and there's our dendritic gross zone, and you can see this is lift in the atmosphere. Omega is what it's called, and that's what it's measuring. You can see there is a decent amount present during this time to suggest there's going to be at least a good burst of snow. What else do you need to be? This is your dew point line. Here's your temperature line. You need to be saturated in that as well, from the top of your dendritic gross zone down to the surface. From that point on, you need to be saturated, and your dendritic gross zone is where your snowfall production zone is. That's where the magic happens. Those snowflakes are made, and that is from there, from the top of this, from there down to the surface. You need to be saturated. You can see pretty well saturated from the top down, especially at the surface. That's one thing that will be different from the last clipper that we had. And so this will come on through, and there should be actually a pretty decent burst of snow with this, potentially a moderate to even maybe heavy burst of snow with this. You can see we are going to be at 27, our dendritic gross zone here, about just above 600 millibars in the atmosphere, down to just below around 700 millibars. So there's going to be some decent accumulation here with this when it does happen. It's going to be so snow growth will be decent for this, as temperatures will be in the mid-20s. And, typically around 500 to 600 millibars is that dendritic gross zone. And you'll see for the most of the duration of this event, during the back half, we'll get a little bit warmer. But general accumulation, 1 to 4 inches likely, with a good chunk of, there should be a good swath of 2 to 5 inches from Hudson Valley, Connecticut, Rhode Island, northern Rhode Island, potentially into Massachusetts. And the highest totals will likely be focused on the Berkshires and southern Vermont, where those higher elevations are. And you can take a sounding there and get an idea, right? Some pretty good lift there in the dendritic gross zone as well, as you can see pointed out from the model run here on the HRR. And just general idea, you can see 23 degrees cold, colder too, and it's just, you're able to get better ratio. So expect about 1 to 4 generally with this event. And again, the focus is across, just a general idea. It won't specifically be like this, but if you want to overperform, you want to see how well saturated can you be on the backside, so that you will able to get maybe a little bit more snow after. If you want to get 3, 4, or 5 inches versus 1 or 2 inches of snow, that'd be a good way to do it, is see how consistently you can get in the best banding and how long you can last to snow, can just keep snowing, really, is the bottom line, at least at a decent notable rate after the bulk of it moves through. And you'll see it is a warm air advection event, so we'll have a good transport of moisture, not as cold as the last clipper, but good enough to get the job done, to get some accumulating snow. So little fun action we'll be seeing there. But then we start to transition beyond here, and we'll just, again, matter. Use the GFS, look at the Euro as well. There are some question marks with this system on whether or not we'll have all rain or snow, but as we move forward here, there's your Clipper system at 500. You can see moving through across the Northeast. You can see that moves through, that upper level energy gets out of the way, and then we start looking at this system right here. I'll take a screenshot for you and we'll kind of relay what's going on right here. And this is, again, this is the GFS, but again, it doesn't matter really the model to break down my thoughts here. They're not so far off that, you know, the setup is too far off from one another. The general setup, it's becoming pretty clear what's going on here. So we have this big, right, influx of upper level energy moving from west to east. We're in more of a zonal stretch this week where we'll see a flatter storm track, so no big waves here in the jet stream. We're not going to be seeing that this week and maybe even into next week as well. We have cold air from the north here, and you can see, though, this main source of the upper level energy is further north, but we have precipitation getting out ahead, out in front, right? We're not wrapping it up. So it's really getting stretched out, like we said, zonal. So this precipitation overrunning out ahead of our event here, out ahead of the main area of upper level energy. And the further north this is, the further in the tighter this is closer to the main source of the upper level energy, the further north the whole storm comes, and it makes it more likely that mixing further north, and it would be more of a front end thump for really anybody in southern New England versus an actual potential all snow event. If we're seeing this get a little bit more out ahead, a little bit less of a tighter wrap to the upper level energy, or if we do see our cold air or up, we do see this press down more, this start to press more down on our system, that will flatten it out and also allow prevent amplification of our system from being too much, and we won't see this storm ride as far north of the upper level energy, and we'll see that mix line be able to drop a little bit further south, and that maybe opens up more all snow opportunities north of New York City. Likely, I'm not seeing this favoring New York City southward right now for snow potential. I think the snow potential with this system would be north of here, and especially around Boston northward as well, especially Massachusetts northward, I would say, is even more favored to see accumulating snow just for now. Out of this could be a front end thump. It could be an opportunity for more than several inches of snow potentially out of this event versus 1 to 4. It could be even some 6+ inch potential theoretically, but it's still this is not likely a major snowstorm that we're going to be dealing with here across Thursday. So just start getting into the details of this as we get closer, and you can see eventually that does start wrapping up and moves out of the way. And then as we transition here, this is where it starts to get interesting, and we'll switch to the ensembles here just to give a general idea. I have my general thoughts, but ensembles are starting to pick up on the general idea at least a little bit better. And as we transition here, you can see a flatter storm track as we progress here still, but here's where it starts to get pretty interesting. Look at this storm track here. You would look at this and you think, well, like we talked about, 500 heights, they can be deceiving if you're not 100% sure what to look at. You're like, well, isn't this big ridging over here, and you're seeing the blue over here? That's bad, right, for the eastern US and northeast specifically? No, this is not. This is actually a very solid look. Here we have this big, massive Alaskan ridge here. Look at the height lines there. I believe is that 5. Yeah, I mean, that's a 564 height line ridge all the way up here in Alaska. So big ridge up there, and you can see cold air source now funneling potentially a polar vortex disruption starting to occur later as we enter later in the month. And now we look at this pattern where cold air is dumping across into the central part of the country here. And now we create this baroclinic zone of potential opportunity where that warm air drives up from the Gulf of Mexico, up from the Atlantic, that moisture drives up, and we create now a storm track that rides this baroclinic zone. And now it depends on some some key features in the Atlantic on how strong and how prominent our ridging in the Atlantic is, how strong this ridge is, the location, how much North Atlantic ridging we'll have. Those will be some key factors down the line that will play a factor. But we're locking in cold air dumping over here, and then we're locking in a storm track where we're driving up moisture off the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic. And now we're looking at this opportunity for storm potential here across the Midwest in the Northeast as we start getting closer to the middle part of February, that second week of February. And that is the opportunity now potentially start getting for some bigger storm potential. And then beyond that, we start then looking at potential for a polar vortex disruption even further down the line. Now, again, this is not like verbatim. Don't take this, exactly. It's a 300 hour out model run, but just the general idea is that we'll start seeing potentially a warming event in the polar vortex, and you can see these 500 millibar height chart here displaying that idea of higher heights across high latitudes, and then cold air filtering in across the middle to eastern part of the country. And then look at this, creating that baroclinic zone yet again, and maybe a little bit more of an amplified storm track as we head into the core in the middle part of February here. And that would be a very, very good look potentially for snowstorms across this area here. Right, this would be a very, very good look for potentially snowstorms to be able to get in that in the northeastern part of the country, into the Midwest. So this is, in my opinion, a very exciting pattern coming up here for February. And I had some comments and saying, you said that about January. You said that, I mean, January was a pretty exciting pattern. Maybe not for your backyard, but overall, we had the biggest Gulf snowstorm in history for many people. We had a pretty big mid-Atlantic storm to open up the month, and we had a solid northeast storm. Not a major. We did not have a major northeast snowstorm, but it wasn't. Yeah, we had cold air in place. Sometimes you just don't convert the opportunities, and that's the reality. Just didn't convert the opportunities, and that's I told you. There's never guarantees with this. So even though we had cold air in place for a lot of the month, we didn't necessarily convert the opportunities, as many opportunities as we needed to be able to have an above average snowfall month. I'm telling you, I wouldn't just BS you guys to just say it because, oh man, he just really wants the snow. Of course, most of us want snow. That's why we're watching this content right now. But as we start transitioning here, I've been saying it for weeks now, even when the model support wasn't here, like we're starting to see now. I'm pretty confident that we're going to be able to get an active February pattern. And now, whether your backyard is personally or not converts, that's a whole nother story. I can't promise that. But I think in general, especially for the Northeast and New England, like in northern mid-Atlantic potentially as well, as we get more into the middle and latter part of the month, maybe that could open up more of the mid-Atlantic and maybe even northern parts of the South again, depending on the polar vortex disruption. But as we start transitioning here, I believe there's going to be, as we're entering February now, there's going to be a solid opportunity for many to be able, especially in the Northeast and New England specifically, to be able to get a good amount of snow. I mean, look at this ensemble mean. Again, these don't matter, but you just gain enough feel over time. And this is an absurd ensemble mean here from the EPS. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, 12 to 18 inch mean, a 12 to 20 inch mean New York City northward is absolutely absurd. And it's just basically all this is indicating. Don't care about the numbers. It's not saying 16 inches of snow is going to happen in this time. All this is an indicator of is it's a tool to suggest there's a potentially active pattern. It's backing up what the ensemble and the models are showing now. There's model support in ensembles for the meteorology more, not just behind my thoughts specifically, but just behind the thoughts in general of there could be an active February pattern here for the Northeast especially. And that's all it's trying to suggest. You can see the Canadian ridiculous mean as well, absolutely absurd, even crazier, and the GFS having a very high mean as well, suggesting that especially interior Northeast as well is going to be able to make out pretty well, but I think a lot of the Northeast, and in New England especially, and even into places into northern Mid Atlantic here, could have a very active February pattern, and that will present snow opportunities potentially as well. You may mix in a rain event for depending on where you live during this time, or maybe two if you're especially in the Mid Atlantic or more. It's hard to say the specifics of how this turns out, but again, the focus here, I believe, is northeast New England, maybe northern and mid Atlantic as well over the next couple weeks, and then maybe the mid Atlantic and northern parts of the South can start having a chance to get it into this maybe as we enter the middle to latter part of February. But that is very TBD. I'm not very confident quite on that. So I appreciate all of you for tuning in, and we're going to be going live again soon. So stay tuned, and I appreciate you all.